I also know that you have encountered linguistics during your first year, and one of the terms you have known during the time is phones, phonemes, and phonology. The phonesthetics is a combination of the two terms, phone and uh, aesthetics. Phone sound, aesthetics beauty, meaning to say beauty of sound. So when we talk about phonesthetics, poetry therefore has this beauty of sound. Also, it has sound symbolism and meter. So muna ang tulo ka buok major composition or elements sa poetry nga pag wala na silang tulo, it cannot be considered or classified as a poem. To evoke meanings, the reason why we have these three is to evoke meanings in addition to or in place of the prosaic ostensible meaning. Meaning to say, when we say prosaic ostensible meaning, comes from the word prose. When we say prose, diba when we read essays, short stories, when we read those types of compositions, we can easily understand sentences because they are written particularly in sentence form. Secondly, they are written clearly and there are additional descriptions. But when we say poetry, it is not explaining about something. It is just an expression. And it uses sound, symbolism, and meter to replace the prosaic aspect. So that is the reason why poems are very short compared with prose. Okay? For a while. Okay. So that's the definition of poetry. Now we have what we call characteristics of poetry because as I have said a while ago, poetry, there are considerations for us to identify or classify a particular write-up as poetry. So, dili ta basta-basta mo ingon nga, ay, kani poem na siya. There will be characteristics to consider. First, the line length. Line length is equivalent to meter. I believe you remember it. It is one of the topics we have discussed during the second week of our ELT 311 class, if you remember. Poets determine the length of each verse they write. It is part of the art itself. Meter is based on a specific number of stressed and unstressed syllables in each line. So the length of the line is determined in advance by the metrical scheme the poet adopts. So muna nito siyang meter katong pentameter, tetrameter, trimeter, dimeter, and monometer katong lima ka buok. Those are the meters used in a poem. Pag moingon tag metrical scheme, that's the moment nga ginabalik-balik na siya, naka-pattern na siya. I hope you remember that because that is already discussed last term. Next, we have the heightened use of sound. When we talk about sound, we are not just talking about merely sound systems, but rhyme. So, rhyme ang atong ginapasabot pag poetry. Rhyme is a device that ends two lines with the same sound. It can be muted to keep it from becoming obtrusive. There are other ways to link words by sound, such as alliteration. So when we talk about rhyme, pwede siya entire word, rhyme with each other, pwede syllable lang, pwede end of the line, pwede in the middle. So daghang klase na rhyming. Third, later on, expound na to what are those meters, sound, and rhythm. Next, we have the use of rhythm. For the use of rhythm, of course, rhythm is a systematic variation in the flow of sound. Some poets use a recurring pattern based on the number of syllables per line. Mao na nitong iamb, dactylic, ato, if you remember, pato ka buok, trochaic, okay? These are the rhythms. And when we talk about rhythmic pattern, mao na ni siyang repetition of a particular rhythm. For example, ayam. Kung mao na iyang rhythm, then gibalik-balik siya, naka-pattern siya from the first to the end of the poem, mo na siya ginatawag natog rhythmic pattern. Next, we have compression. This is the last of the 4 characteristics of poetry. A new term because this was not mentioned during ELP 311 course. Compression refers to compressing words. Poems usually say a lot in a few words. Unlike prose, poems are short. Okay? Writers or poets are writing poems using minimal words, very short. But behind those short lines, behind those short stanzas and short words, there is a huge expression, a huge meaning. That is what we mean when it says saying a lot in a few words. This is done through the use of language, while suggests much more than the immediate surface meaning. So, in short, from the word compress, diba, if before, katong face-to-face pa, pag mag-pictorial, or even kamo, pag mag-groovy, nga naay medyo di maigo sa camera, pwede mo moingon nga, compress ta guys, compress, meaning to say, dikit. Pag magdikit mo, mugamay mo tanawon because you are compressed. So, mo na ginapasabot. So, the meaning of the expression is compressed using minimal words. That is the 4th characteristic of poetry. Okay? Next, let's proceed to the language of poetry. So we have what we call first the levels of language. Poetry often deals with personal feelings and thoughts, so it frequently uses a vocabulary that is more varied and phrasing that is denser in implication than what we might use in a casual letter to a friend. So in poems, we all know that words used are not denotative in meaning. They represent different meanings. Some or most meanings of poems are hidden, okay, written in connotative form. That is why we see figurative languages in poems or even in short stories, but it is most particular with poems. So it is the level of language, meaning to say it's beyond what is commonly used in our day-to-day living. Next, the poet's task is to find the appropriate words and phrases, not fancy ones. What is appropriate for one poem may not be for another. So it doesn't mean that because you have a wide vocabulary, you will be able to create a poem. That is not the basis. One consideration is, of course, we have to know when to appropriately use a particular word, because if you do not know how to use a word appropriately, you cannot create an effective poem. Okay, so that is what we are referring to when we talk about levels of usage of language. Next, effective language is that which is appropriate to the tone of the poem and to the persona. For example, ang poem is about, the speaker of the poem is a child. You have to use languages that is appropriate sa level sa child. Okay? Songs, for example, because songs are under poetry. Songs, for example, if ang song is a sad song or if it is a love song, we have to use words nga bisan pag dili pa completely sang ang song, you will be able to classify it as a love song. Okay? That is what we call levels of usage of languages. The appropriateness of the tone. Okay? Next one. Achieving vitality in language. We have to look for phrasing that will catch the attention of readers and give them fresh insights and new ways of looking at the familiar. When we say catching the attention, this is now the time that we will be creating emotion within lines using the language, of course. Okay? Meaning to say, we are giving emphasis, we are putting weight on a particular line. Dili lang basta-basta sulat. Okay? There are weight or there is weight in each line. This is to remind the readers that in poetry, we are not looking at the familiar world, but behind what is common in the eyes of the people. So, mao na siyang very particular ta sa connotative and figurative languages when it comes to poetry. Next one, find nouns that are solid, specific, and visual. Take a second look at every adjective in your draft and see if selecting a different noun will do the job. Example, big hills, instead of saying mountain, howling wind instead of saying gale. So why? Nganong ingon ana man? When we say mountain, plain lang, no image. Pero kabaluta, what is a mountain? And that is the common language. But when we talk about poem, we have to use images. We have to allow the reader to visualize or create an image out from the line that or words that we have used. So we have to be specific. Okay? So that is what we mean with vitality in language. Another one, find verbs that are specific. The right verb rarely needs to be modified. When we talk about verbs, this is one of the problems of English majors because there are a lot of verbs that we are not using appropriately. In writing poems, it is very essential for us to know when to use a particular verb. So it is one of the considerations that you need to look up to or look into in writing poems. So be particular if you are not sure with a verb, whether to use it or not, or whether it is appropriate or not, do not hesitate to consult a dictionary. It does not mean that you are not intelligent if you search for a meaning of a particular word from a dictionary. It just means that you are willing to learn. So consult a dictionary if you are unsure. Next, use the language of your own age and adapt it to your persona. The reason why we are encouraged to use the language of our own age is for us to feel free to express our emotions. Because basically, poetry is an expression of experiences and emotions. So, you cannot um, easily express your feelings and emotions if you are not using a language that you are comfortable with or comfortable with. So you have to use language of your own and adapt it to your persona. Meaning to say you will be, because for example, if you are going to write a poem about a child and a speaker is a child, you have to think and consider that you have these sets of language for a child because you will be speaking on behalf of the persona dito sa poem. Okay? Next, compression. Okay, we have to consider this particularly. The last or the fourth characteristic of poetry. Compress, compress, compress. Meaning to say, in other words, use minimal languages or say a lot in few words. Okay? Always remember that in poetry, if you will be composing na, say a lot in few words. Next, we have images. I know you are familiar with this already. I just don't know if you remember exactly what are those images or types of imagery. When we talk about image, it is any significant piece of sense data. It includes objects seen, sounds heard, texture felt, odors smelled, and objects tasted. Or in other words, katong gitawag nato og tactile imagery, visual imagery, auditory, etc. An image refers to an object seen or perceived by the other senses, regardless of whether that word is used literally or figuratively. So sa imagery, a whole paragraph or even a whole poem, pwede na siya mag-contain og imagery. And one poem can contain 5 imageries. Images tend to be concrete nouns, and these images is one of the most effective elements of poetry because this arouses the imaginative mind of the readers. So this will attract readers. Okay, so we have here a song, a poem written by Howard Moss titled Local Places. In this poem, 5 senses are used. So the song you sang, you will not sing again. So that is expressing what? What imagery is present there? Anyone may speak. Okay, so from the word, the song you sang, when we sing, we hear a sound. Okay, next, floating in the spring to all your local places. What is that? What image is present in that line? Floating in this. Yes, pardon. Okay, that is visual. Actually, these are very familiar to you, I know, because of the activity that you have encountered, no? Okay, next one, let's have actually lured by archaic to watch the frog, to listen. These are auditory and visual. Next one, or feel the springy pine floor where you walk, blah blah blah. That is what? From the word feel. Okay, that's tactile or tactile imagery. Okay? So, mo na siya, I know you are familiar with the images. Next, we have images also serve as the concrete element in almost any figure of speech, such as the figurative languages, including simile, metaphor, apostrophe, etc. Okay? I hope you remember them. That is the reason why I introduced those terms to you during our ELT 311 subject because it is very important as major in English. You will be encountering those terms uh, now until you become a teacher. So we have the term tenor. Tenor describes the poet's actual subject of concern. What is the focus or what is the target of the poet in writing the poem? Okay? Vehicle refers to the images associated with it. What particular image is used? Pamaagi. Just to express. What image is used to express a particular idea? Mo nang ginatawag siyang vehicle. Okay? Paagi siya. Para not directly ma-state ang whole statement, but be able to express it in few words using images. Next is mixed metaphor. This is one with two contradictory vehicles. This is when two images are used in one line. Kanang combination of images. Maong ginatawag siya contradictory vehicles. The use of two contradictory vehicles sa mixed metaphor. Okay? For example, light and darkness. For example, kanang duha ka buok, black and white, kana nga mga images. Okay? Oppositions. That's under mixed metaphor. Next one. Image as symbol. A symbol is a metaphor in which the meaning or tenor is implied rather than stated. Public symbols are widely known and are often hackneyed from overuse. Poets construct their own private symbols. So, as to present, the poets are already using different symbols. They're inventing their own symbols because gasgas na kaayo ang mga symbols like dove as a symbol of freedom, maingon ana, dove as a symbol of love. Those are overused. That is the reason why the poets now are using their own private symbols. When you will be required to write your poems, you can create your own symbols. Anyway, the meaning of those symbols will be defined or identified the moment the entire poem is being read. Just make sure to use the appropriate language. Next. By the way, when we talk about symbol, we are talking about objects, ha? Objects. Next, we have the sound of words. Poetry has its roots in the oral tradition because basically, literature was oral before because writing comes after speaking. So we were able to say something first. We were able to produce sound first before we were able to write a particular symbol. So we have the rhyme. Rhyme is a device which consists of two or more words linked by an identity and sound, which begins with an accented vowel and continues to the end of each word. Okay, so when we talk about rhyme, it is a repetition of sound. Okay, whether two or more words. Okay, next. We have here the types of rhymes. First, we have the perfect rhyme. When we talk about perfect rhyme, it is a rhyme where both words share the exact assonance and number of syllables, also known as an exact rhyme, full rhyme, or a true rhyme. So either of those terms will do. Perfect, exact, full, or true. This rhyme is when the sound and the number of syllable is the same. Just like, for example, light and flight. We have light, one syllable, flight, one syllable, and they also have one sound of rhyming. I sound. Okay? Next, slant rhyme. This is a rhyme formed by words with similar but not identical assonance and or the number of syllables, also known as a half rhyme, an imperfect rhyme, or a near rhyme. So there is a similarity between the two, but there is a difference as well. We can see a lot of words that rhyme but do not have the same number of syllables. Okay? For example, ignite and light, the two words, ignite and light. Light is a one syllable word, ignite is a two syllable word, but both of them share the same sound. Next, for example, hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. So what is the rhyme used here in soul and all? Soul and all. What rhyme is used? Is it perfect rhyme or half rhyme? Anyone? Half. Why? What is the reason? What is the difference? Because when we say half rhyme, meaning to say something is differing. So what's the difference? Anyone? Okay. If we pronounce the word soul, I hope you are participating in this because this is actually one of the topics in linguistics, the sounds, the vowel sounds sa phonology. Okay, when we read the word or speak the word soul, the sound of O there is O. Soul, O. And both ends with the sound L. The all word is almost the same with soul. But if we are going to compare and analyze the difference between the two or evaluate the difference between the sounds of the two words, we can see that there is a difference because soul is pronounced as O and then all is pronounced as O. O, O. But both of them have similarity, almost the same but not totally, not perfectly. So that is the reason why ginatawag siyang half rhyme. Dili parehas atong sa light and fight ba to kung example flight. Light and flight nga exactly the same. Pareho jud sila vowel sound I. Next, we have what we call the I rhyme. Okay, when we talk about I rhyme, this refers to two words that look similar on a page but do not actually rhyme in spoken pronunciation. Meaning to say, pareha sila tan-awon mong gitawag og I rhyme. They look the same, but they are pronounced differently. For example, move, love, hour, poor. Exactly different. We are referring to the vowel sounds in rhymes. So we have here move and love. Pag tan-awan nimo siya, pareho man. They are rhyming. Pero pag basahon na nimo siya, they are different. So that is called I rhyme. They look the same but they sound different. Okay, next we have our masculine rhyme. A rhyme between the final stressed syllables of two lines. Final stressed syllables. Take note stressed dapat. Okay, final stressed syllables. For example, claims, flames. So if you can see, claims and flames are stressed. Basta one syllable, automatic, stress yun na siya. Claim is a one-syllable word. Flame is a one-syllable word as well. So both of them have masculine rhymes. They are rhyming between the final stress syllables of two lines. Meaning to say, ang isa ka line, for example, first line nag-end og claims. Second line nag-end og flames. So ang tawag atong duha ka buok is masculine rhyme. Next, whole line ang masculine rhyme Next, we have rare and despair. Ma'am, ngano man nga the same man sila nga duha man na ka syllable. Take note, pag one syllable lang na siya, rare and spare for example, rare and spare. Under siya sa exact rhyme or perfect rhyme. Pero kani, two syllable man ang despair. So, despair is under masculine rhyme. Why? Because we are considering the final stress. So the word despair is stressed in the final syllable, pair. Okay? So that is under masculine rhyme. Next, we have feminine rhyme, a multi-syllable rhyme where both stressed and unstressed syllables rhyme with their respective counterparts. For instance, the words crazy, lazy. Okay, two syllable, meaning to say there are the words do not just exist in one syllable. More than one syllable. Tapos, both words have the same pattern of stressed and unstressed rhyming or sound. So we have crazy, lazy. So both are stressed in the first syllable. Okay, ang pattern niya Kaning sa masculine rhyme, the rhyme is in the final stressed syllables. Okay? Another example nga mas klaro, kung two syllables. Prepare, prepare. So the second syllable is stressed. Prepare and despair. But here, when we say crazy, the stress is in the first syllable. Crazy, lazy. So that is under feminine rhymes. The syllables cray and lay are stressed rhymes and z are unstressed rhymes. And we have the end rhymes. These are rhymes that occur between the final words on two particular lines of poetry. End rhymes can be either masculine, for instance, below and furlough, or feminine. For instance, actual and factual. Take note sa feminine, ayam ang iyang sound. Stress, unstress. Actual, factual. Okay? Lazy, crazy. Yun na iyang pattern. Okay. Questions so far? Do you have clarification so far about the previous topics or terms? Hello? Okay. Thank you for responding. At least I will know that you are hearing my voice. Let's have the sound of words. When we talk about the sound of words, we are referring to what particular sounds are used in the poem in order to catch the attention of the readers. Because not all words that have the same sound are rhyming. There are words that are non-rhyme or not rhyming, but they represent the use of sounds. For example, we have alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of consonants. This is not under figurative language. This is one of the mistakes that you made during ELT 111 poem analysis because you included assonance, alliteration. Those are not under figurative languages because it refers to sound. It is under sounds of words, non-rhyming devices. Alliteration is the repetition of consonants, particularly those at the beginning of words. Okay, take note, pag alliteration, only the first letters of words are being talked about. For example, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. What words have alliteration there? What words? Hello. Or what sound? What sound? What letter sound? Okay, letter P. Take note ha, consonants tayo for alliteration. Initial consonant sound is repeated. Pasabot, primero nga consonant. Consonant letters, tanan letters except sa A, E, I, O, U. Pag ibalik-balik na siya, tapos first letter siya sa kada word, ginatawag siya og alliteration. Peter, nag-starts with letter P. Piper, picked, peck, pickled, and peppers. These words start with letter P, so it is under alliteration. Next one, we have sheep should sleep in a shed. What sound? S lang? Okay, the sound of SH, which is sh, pagpahilumon ka, that sound. Okay, we have sheep, should, and shed. Kana lang tulo. It doesn't mean nga automatic magsunod-sunod na sila nga mga words. Pwede dili. Basta within one line, take note ha, within one line. Gibalik-balik na siya nga sound, bisan pag wala nagsunod-sunod, tapos naa siya sa first sound siya sa kada word, that is under alliteration. Ma'am, nganong SH man nga consonant letters man ang gipasabot? Again, we are talking about sounds. And in phonology, when we talk about sounds, kana si SH diha, although two letters na siya, one sound ra na. So dili pwede S lang atong iingon. Ma'am, nganong walay labot ang sleep? Sleep does not bear the sound SH. S ra na nga sound. So, dili siya appeal. Only sheep, should, and shed. Next, dance dog dove deep in the dam, drinking dirty water as he dove. So, that is the sound of letter D. And then we have Fred's friends fried Fritos for Friday's food. Actually, tanan words start with the letter F. That is under alliteration. So, basically, when we see tongue twisters are under alliteration. dili pud tanan because some of the tongue twisters kay vowel sounds man ang ginagamit. But when we say tongue twisters kasi usually gina-repeat ang sound sa consonants. So that is under alliteration. Next, we have assonance. If ang consonants, if ang alliteration is the repetition of initial consonant sound, assonance is the repetition of similar vowel sounds regardless of where they are located in a word. Bisan asa, pwede sa initial, pwede sa middle, pwede sa final. Beginning, middle, or end. Bisag asa, ang alliteration lang ang particular sa first. So we have the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain. So we have rain, Spain, stays, apil pa na ha, although lahi ang spelling, rain, Spain, stays, mainly, plain. Now, a very good example here for assonance clearly is kanang stays o mainly, nga naman. Mainly, naa sa first. Okay, mainly, tapos 2 words siya, and then the rest, tag 1 word. So, dili magbase kung pila ka syllable. Kung aha dapit nga syllable, dili ka na ang basis. For as long as the same ang vowel sound. Next, we have once upon a midnight, dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary. We have a na sound, dreary, weak, and weary. So, we have dreary and weary. Tapos, we have upon and pondered. Upon and pondered. So, as you can see, ang pon is nasa second, which is final sound. Sa pondered, nasa sa initial sound. So, bisag asa lang. Okay? Here, the mellow wedding bells. So, we have mellow, wedding, and then bells. Walay labot ang here, kay lahi siyag sound. Next, we have the consonants. Consonants is the repetition of consonant sounds, usually refers to sounds within the words. Again, take note, within the word, pwede siya final. Basta pag automatic ang consonant is initial, automatic alliteration na siya. Pero pag dili gani sa initial, pero balik-balik ang consonant sounds, dito na siya na belong sa consonants. For example, Mike likes his new bike. Okay, lahi man ang M, L, o B. So, dili siya initial. Ang K man ang sound ang gibalik-balik. And it belongs in the final part. Dili po siya final syllable, kay tag one syllable lang man. Okay, dili man siya initial sound, final sound man siya. So, that is under consonants. Toss the glass boss. We have the sound of S sa final part for each word. So, that is under consonants. It will creep and beep while you sleep. So, we have the sound of letter P at the end or the final part of the words. So, that is under consonants. Okay? Next, we have lastly the onomatopoeia. When we talk about onomatopoeia, it refers to a word that sounds like the object or action it describes. Very common ani kay the hush of the wind. Gikuha ra ng word nga hush because the sound of wind, pagkusog ang haguro sa hangin, hush ang sound. So mo nang ginahimo sa hush of the wind. The hiss of the snake, hiss, H-I-S-S. Nganong hiss man? Because hiss is the sound of the snake. So, gikuha ra diha ang term nga ang tawag sa tingog sa bitin kay hiss. Kay ang tingog sa bitin mismo, hiss man ang sound. So, again, the origin or the basis of composing or creating the word is the sound itself. Another example is kanang tuko. Very common. Nganong gitawag mo nagtuko kay ang tingog niya tuko man. So diha gikuha ang iyang tawag nga tuko. Mo nay dili jud nako malimtan when we are talking about onomatopoeia hantud ron elementary pa ko ana. Basta onomatopoeia kana jud akong di malimtan sa tanan nga mga sound systems. Kay very common ang tuko nga word. It is called tuko because the sound of that particular species is tuko. Okay? So, those are the 4 sounds. Recap lang nato to gamay. Ang alliteration is initial consonant sound. Assonance is repetition of vowel sounds wherever part of the word. And then consonants is the repetition of consonant sounds in other parts of the word except initial sound. And onomatopoeia is words or referring to words that sound like the object it describes. Okay? So, dara, ang example, hark, hark, bow, wow. Taro ba na? Bow, wow of the dogs. Diba? Because the sound of the barking of the dogs is bow, wow. Aw-aw, ganit na sa Filipino. Okay. Next, we have muting sound devices. Muting sound devices, for example, is run online. Is one in which the grammatical construction or the meaning continues to the next line. This is the part wherein, kung kabantay mo, I don't know if you have noticed, there are a lot of poems nga putulon gud siya, tapos ang next line kay one word na lang, which is continuation sa previous line. I know you have encountered that sa poem analysis na to last term. I know naka-encounter mo ana. Giputol ang line niya, ang sumpay niya bisag one word or two words na lang nasa ubos, wala na lang jud gidayon og sumpay ato nga line. So that is what we call run on line. Run on pasabot na apa siya'y sumpay sa ubos. Okay? Giputol. For example, we have kaning last two lines dere sa poem ni John Keats. We have full of sweet dreams and health and quiet breathing. Okay? So, mo na siya. Run on. Next, a more radical method of muting rhyme is simply to separate the rhyming lines. The rhyme is muted. Still further, if you have certain lines unrhymed. So, mo na siya ang ginatawag nato og muted lines. Okay. What is the reason nga nung nagagamit og run-on lines? Unsa may purpose? Just to maintain the sounds. Okay, just to maintain the sounds. We have quiet. Tanawan ninyo ang sound sa mga words. Forever, never, keep, sleep, quiet. Kana sila tanan, ang sounds nila kay letter E. Tapos ang breathing lang ang nalahi. So to maintain the sound of E, gibutang sa next line si breathing. Muna siya ang one of the reasons why there are run-on lines. Another reason also sa run-on lines, for example, nag-compose kog poem. Tapos, nag-maintain ko og 4 lines for each stanza. And then, niabot sa point nga wala na ko ilaing ikasumpay. Tapos, gusto na ako i-maintain gihapon ang 4 lines, pero 3 lines lang akong makreate. Pwede na ko sa ikat, ibutang na ako sa next line para maupat siya. So, muna siya isa sa mga technique in creating poems using run-on lines. Next, we have slant rhyme, also called off rhymes. These are similar but not identical in sounds. Examples, barnacles, snails, stone, gone. Okay, so these are words nga almost the same but not quite. Okay. Layo ra kayo ng barnacles ug snails, pero they have the same sound of letter S. Stone and gone, stone, O, S-T-O, tapos N lang yun ang common sa ilaha, last lang yun na sound. So that is under slant rhyme. Ma'am, pwede pa na naay duha ka rhyme sa isa ka lines? Yes. Pwede na ay end rhyme and slant rhyme at the same time. For example, kani, stone and gun, naa siya sa end sa mga lines. Under siya sa end rhyme and at the same time, under po siya sa slant rhyme. So, pwede ra siya. Okay. Question so far. Kasi naay kalibog na ay mga pangutana so far. Please tell me if none, para at least we can proceed. Okay, when we talk about slant rhyme, these are words that have identical sound, similar sound, but not totally. Okay? For example, barnacles, ang sound lang yun nga the same sa ilaha is ang letter S lang yun. Okay? Stone gun, ang sound lang pod nga the same sa ilaha, ang letter N lang pod. Actually, pwede pod siya ma-under sa consonants gani. So it is under slant rhyme, meaning to say, naa sila similar na sound, pero dili gyud ang entire word. Unlike pag moingon tag flight and night, light and night, kana nga mga word, exactly the same gyud ang vowel sound. Ang kanimang gud sa slant rhyme, lahi ilang vowel sound, tapos pareho ilahang end sound nga consonant. Okay, that is slant rhyme. I hope I have answered it correctly. Okay. Ana pa, yes. Please proceed. Okay, very good question. Thank you for that. Just to remind everyone, rhymes are not just found at the end of lines. Unsa man gipasabot, ma'am? End sa line or end sa word? Okay. There are rhymes within a line. There are also rhymes at the end of the line. Okay. Una ta sa word sa. There are words that rhyme within and initially. An example of that is kaning mga alliteration. Sa word, ang sound lang nga ginatanaw kay ang first sound lang, dili ang end sound. Okay? Another one, ang consonants and ang assonants na ay mga sound nga sa middle lang, nasa tunga. Okay? Let's have the rhymes at the end of the lines. Dili pasabot nga automatic basta rhyming sa end sa line lang nato pangitaon nga kada ang pag-check lang nato kay tan-awon lang nato unsay last word sa kada line. Dili ingon ana ang rhyming. We have to check within the lines as well. Kay pwede nga tanan words diha in one line na ay rhyme. For example, kani, very, very good example tong atong tongue twister. Murag gani sila tanan. Kani nga mga words. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Take note that the words inside the lines are rhymed all together. So, dili lang ang peppers ang atong ginatanaw ani. The entire line. Okay? Now, ma'am, if dili mag-rhyme ang end sa mga poem, wala na ba na siya rhyme? The answer is no. Because even if the poem does not end with the same rhyming sound, there may be a sound repeatedly mentioned or used within the line. Okay? For example, naay mga poems nga ang ilahang middle word kay the same og sound. We also have to check that. Okay? So the answer to the question is no. Rhymes are not only found at the end of lines. Other questions? Naa pa ba? Yes, please proceed. Mm-mm. Asa ginagamit ang endrament? The same with the poem. It is synonymous, if that is the description, I'm not that familiar with the term. Sa unsa na nga subject? Okay, contemporary meaning to say modern, meaning to say terms used there are modernized or common na karon. Muna'y ginagamit karon. So it could be that the traditional term is the run-on. If the same, i-check ko ha, paki-review. Ako apod siyang i-review later after sa class, kaya basin mamali ta. But if you remember it correctly, that run-on gihapon iyang pattern, It could be that the traditional or the classic term is the run-on. Ang run-on man good kay general man good siya, pwede siya gamiton sa other compositions. Pwede siya gamiton sa short stories, dili lang sa poem. Okay? So pwede na sa modern or sa contemporary literature, instead of saying run-on kay very broad ang meaning sa run-on lines, gigamitan na siya term na endrament. It could be. Okay? Just check it for yourself to confirm. Thank you for that. Si Rofil ba to? Tama ba ko? Okay, thank you for that. At least we will now be able to differentiate the two, and at least we will know also kung pareho ba na sila or lahi ba na sila. Maybe the next meeting or maybe post na to niya sa ato ang Facebook page just to confirm kung unsa na ang mga terms. Thank you, Rofil. Others, nato ba? I would like to remind everyone that the reason why I really want my students to ask questions is because not all things mentioned by the teacher contains everything that the students want to learn. There might be things that I have not said that you want to hear. That is the reason why teachers should ask questions. And also, there are a lot of things that students know that teachers do not know, and vice versa. Dili pwede nga si teacher lang ang sweeto kayo, ang estudyante wala. Because sa panahon karon, we are all exposed in all platforms related to literature. So kita tanan makakontribute og additional knowledge sa discussion. So when you become teacher, please when you become teachers, encourage your students to ask questions. Para at least ang mga wala nakabalo na ay mahibalaan nga additional. Sige, basi na mga naga-compose dihag poems nga naay mga pangutana. Okay, silence means none, I think. Let's proceed. Now we have the rhyme scheme. I believe this is the last topic. The rhyme scheme is the pattern of sounds that repeats at the end of a line or stanza. Kanina ang end. Kung rhyme scheme. Okay, kung pattern na siya. Okay? Rhyme schemes can change line by line, stanza by stanza, or can continue throughout a poem. Poems with rhyme schemes are generally written in formal verse which has a strict meter, a repeating pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. So when we talk about rhyme scheme, katunaning mga lines nga pareho na og mga sound sa end. Pwede for example na ay unom ka buok line sa each stanza. And then, ang first two lines kay rhymed, second two lines rhymed, and last word sa line. And then, ang last two lines kay nag-rhyme pod. Pag-abot sa second stanza, pwede nga ang first two lines, please tell me if dili klaro ha. Ang akong giyon kaganiha sa first stanza, first two lines nag-rhyme, next two lines nag-rhyme, and last two lines nag-rhyme. Pero lahi-lahi silang sound. Ang next stanza, pwede siya nga ang first two lines niya naka-rhyme pod sa first two lines sa previous stanza, tapos ang second two lines wala naka-rhyme sa second two lines sa previous stanza. Pwede pod naka-rhyme, pwede pod dili. Ang last two lines, pwede pod siya naka-rhyme or dili maka-rhyme sa last two lines sa previous stanza. Meaning to say, at least naalay duha ka lines for each stanza nga nag-rhyme that is now under rhyme scheme. Another pattern sa rhyme scheme is ingon ani. Ang first line sa kada stanza the same og sound, ang second lines the same pod og sound tanan, ang third lines the same pod og sound tanan. That is also under rhyme scheme. Also, pwede pod na tahay 5 ka buok lines for each stanza. Ang middle line lang, ang third line lang ang walay ka rhyme. Siya lang yun ang wala. For every stanza, ang third line lang yun ang dili mag-rhyme. Okay, that is under rhyme scheme gihapon. Okay, next. When we talk about rhyme scheme, ingon ani dapat ang atong answer. Kung pangutanon lang ta what is the rhyme, katong answer nato will be either end rhyme, slant rhyme, perfect rhyme, etc. Pero kung rhyme scheme na gani ang pangayoon, Kanina siya. A, B, A, B. If you remember, nabuhat na ninyo ni sa poetry analysis ninyo, nga if ang sound sa first line lahi sa second line, A ang first line, B ang second line, tapos pag ang third line is pareha og sound sa first line, A na pud to siya. So kung pareha og letter sa rhyme scheme pasabot pareha silang sound. Kung lahi na ang sound, lahian na pud ang letter. Okay? So that is the rhyme scheme. Alternate rhyme scheme is an alternate rhyme. The first and third lines rhyme at the end, and the second and fourth lines rhyme at the end following the pattern AB, AB. Alternate ang tawag kong AB, AB. Kaya naamang may pattern nga A, A, B, B. So, kung puli-puli siya, A sa tapos B niya, A na po tapos B, or ABC, ABC, muna na, or ABCD, ABCD, that is under alternate. Pasabot, puli-puli, or kambyo-kambyo. Okay? So, for example, this one, the first line ends with the word numbers, second line is dream, third line is slumbers, fourth line is seem. So, we have A ang numbers, B ang dream, A na pud si slumbers kay the same silag sound ni numbers, B na pud si seem kay the same silag sound ni dream. So, the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B. Okay? Ballad is a lyric poem that follows the rhyme scheme A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C. Ballads typically have 3 8-line stanzas and conclude with a 4-line stanza. The last line of each stanza is the same, which is called a refrain. This is one of the poems nga intended to be sung. Maong ginatawag siyang lyric poems. When we talk about lyric poems, kanining mga poems nga na mga tono. Okay? So, muna yung pattern pag kung gusto mo magbuhat og balad, muna siya ang pattern A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C. Sundon ninyo na nga pattern. Okay? So, for example, this one. So, we have day, A, ill, A, B na na, kailahin na nag-sound. A na po ang away, B si real, B si kill, tapos C ang forgot, B ang hill, C ang not. So that's A, B, A, B, B, C, B, C. One stanza lang, pwede na na. You can create a ballad like that. Okay? And then we have the coupled rhyme. Ang alternate rhyme katong puli-puli. Ang coupled rhyme katunaning consecutive or sunod. For example, C and D. So we have the same sound. So that's A, A. So kung ang pattern gani sa poem is A, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, that is under coupled rhyme. Alternate, puli-puli, coupled, sunod. Monorhyme is a rhyme of all the lines in a stanza, meaning to say the entire poem end with the same rhyme or stanza. Again, pwede entire poem, pwede stanza lang. For example, ang first stanza nako kay mag-end with the sound of T. Ang second stanza nako mag-end or ait. Ang second stanza nako mag-end with the sound of ain. Ain nga sound. So, lahi akong sound sa first stanza, pero tanan line sa akong first stanza, the same ilang sound. Tanan rhyme pud sa ako ang second stanza, the same pud ilang sound. Pwede pud siya nga tanan gyud stanzas of the entire poem, pareha gyud siya sound tanan. That is under monorhyme. Take note, pwede stanza lang, pwede whole poem. Next, we have the enclosed rhyme. Enclosed rhyme is when the first and fourth lines and the second and third lines rhyme with each other in an enclosed rhyme. The pattern is ABBA in which A encloses the B. Maong ginatawag siyang enclosed rhyme because the two lines within is closed by the two lines outside. So A and A, B, B, A ang first ug ang last line gi-close nila ang rhyming sa tunga. Okay? Next. So kani siya example, youth and shoes parehas silang sound, year and career parehas sound, nasa tunga pareho, so that is A, B, B, A. Okay. Simple four-line rhyme. These poems follow a rhyme scheme of ABCD. Ang tawag ana ha, simple four-line rhyme. Meaning to say, tanan stanza ang pattern kay ABCD. ABCD. Simple four-line rhyme. Pasabot ana niya ha, ang second lang ug ang fourth lang ang nag-rhyme. Mao ginatawag og simple kay sayon raman kay di man i-rhyme tanan. Okay? Ang imuha ramang huna-hunaon kay ang second ug last, bahala na ng ubang lines. Next, we have the triplet. A triplet is a set of 3 lines in a stanza called a tercet that share the same end rhyme. 3 lines for a stanza with the same end rhyme. Okay, that is, for example, B, C, B. Tercet, pasabot ana ha, stanza nga tulo lang ang lines. Couplet, duha lang ang lines. Quatrain, upat ang lines. Napanay septet, so daghan pa na sila. And then we have the terza rima. Terza rima is an Italian form of poetry that consists of tercets. A terza rima follows a chain rhyme in which the second line of each stanza rhymes with the first and last line of the subsequent stanza. It ends with a couplet rhyming with the middle line of the penultimate stanza. Tanawan ninyo ha. Ang basis niya sa sa following stanzas niya is ang sound sa middle line or second line sa previous na stanza. Let's have the first stanza for example. Ang pattern niya kay ABA. Pag abot sa second stanza, ang basis na po niya sa pattern is katong B nga sound. Second line nga sound sa previous nga stanza. So BCB, CDC niya, DED, and then EE. That is terza rima. You can create a terza rima if you want. Okay? For example, we have here being, dead, fleeing. So we have A, B ang dead, and then C, ABA. Pagabot sa second stanza, ang gifollow niya nga sound sa iyang first o last line, ang dead na. So we have red and bed. O naman pod ang sound sa second line sa second stanza, mo na pod ang gifollow sa first o last line sa third stanza. So we have low and blow, so on and so forth. And as you can see, pag abot sa last line, ang pattern na niya is EE na. We have where and here, which is same with the sound of air sa second line sa previous stanza. Nya, couplet na dayon ang last. Okay? So, tercet ang previous stanzas, ang last stanza is couplet. Okay. Next, we have the limerick. A limerick is a 5-line poem with the rhyme scheme A-B-B-A. So, for example, duck, clock, A-A, tapos B-B, 1, run, and then balik na po siya A, duck. You do not have to memorize this naman. Ang importante masabtan ninyo unsa ni na mga rhymes and kanunsa sila gamiton nga mga terms. Next is we have the villanelle, a type of poem with 5 3-line stanzas that follow a rhyme scheme of ABA. The villanelle concludes with a 4-line stanza with the pattern ABAA. Pare-pareho siya sa terza rima. It's just that ang terza rima kay ang last stanza niya 2 lines na lang, couplet na lang. Ang kaning villanelle, quatrain ang iyahang last 4 lines. Okay? So for example, kani. Away, still, say, gray, shrill, away, and then day, ill. Pareho sila tercet. Pero ang pattern niya, pareho ra. So, mana siya. Man ang last paragraph ani. Wala na appeal. Dapat upat na iyang last. Mali ning example. Dapat 4 line na iyang last. Feeling na ko kay na-hide na sa baba. Kay sa laptop magud ni gibuhat ay sa computer. Okay, and then we have the rhythm and stress. By the way, naipangutana ato gani ha sa rhyme scheme. Signay gikalibugan. Silence means none, so let's proceed. So we have rhythm. It is a systematic variation in the flow of sound. So we have meter, a system of stress and unstressed syllables. Feet, the conventionalized units of stress and unstressed syllables. Kabalo naman money. And then verse written without meter, ang tawag ana free verse. Kung wala siya pattern sa stress and unstress, wala siya pattern sa rhyme, sa meter, wala jud siya gi-follow na meter. Ang tawag na niya is free verse. Kung lahi-lahi, mag-usab-usab siya tanan. For example, kanin, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. So, nag-usab-usab siya, nag-ayam niya ning tetra na pod. So, that is under free verse. Nya mukalit ra siya og dactylic kana pag mag-usab-usab siya, that is reverse. Pero bisan pag naay nausab gamay, kung naa gihapon siya gina-maintain, didto tan-aw nato ang majority. Kung majority sa mga lines, for example, nag-follow og I am, kato atong i-follow. Pero kung usab-usab gyud siya consistently, free verse na siya. Pero kung one lang, isa lang katapsing, walay problema na. And then rhythm is a systematic variation in the flow of sound. For example, typography, the technique of arranging words, phrases, and lines on the printed page to create a rhythmical effect. This is under encoding. How the words are arranged, how the phrases are arranged in each stanza. Okay. So, tanaw na to ning typography kung giunsa pag-create pila ka buok lines, giunsa pag-separate ang mga lines, that is under typography na. And then syntactical rhythms is achieved by repeating or balancing a particular grammatical element such as a question, phrase, or clause. Naay mga poems nga ang first word ay first line nila ay last line day kasagaran. Who am I? Karmanan. Who am I? So that is under syntactical rhythms. Nasa gina-maintain nga or gina-repeat nga question pattern or phrase pattern or clause. Tahay gibalik-balik niya ang I am who I am. For each stanza na gyud siya I am who I am. So that is under syntactical rhythms. Next, we have syllabic. Involves counting of syllables like the haiku. Breath units are the loosest form of rhythm in poetry today. Essentially, the line is broken at the point where the reader might be expected to take a breath. So this is actually the number of syllables for each line. Because especially when we are talking about rhythm, kailangan nato mahibalan kung pila ka buok ang syllables for each line. Para makabalutan na siya gi-follow na pattern. For example, we have I feel blue, the light exploded into room. So kung tanaw na to na siya, lahi-lahi ang number niya, lahi-lahi ang pattern, lahi-lahi ang meter, lahi-lahi ang rhythm. So that is under niya. Wala pa gyud siya rhyme sound sa kuan and part. So that is under or even within. Under na siya sa free verse poems. Okay, that ends our discussion for this afternoon. Are there any clarifications or questions or additional information?